Quick update on where we are. It's good to see everybody, and again, post Happy Thanksgiving. As I shared, and just to catch you up to speed a little bit, we are in this 6-month window of transition from when we were joined up as Modesto Regional Fire Authority, and in January we anticipate going standalone as Salida Fire Protection District again. As in this 6 months period of time, we've worked through a lot of processes and what we had come together administratively and operationally and working with the City of Modesto and also the Stanislaus County in doing in this period of time, this transition, as I'm referring to. One of the things that we've been focused on is what will our fire department look like in the future? What do we need to do now, and what will it look like again in 3 to 5 years, even looking out potentially in 7 years from here? And one of the things that we recognized we needed to do immediately to transition back to standalone was to get back and to our own staffing. So a couple of things that we have is we are ready to employ personnel to get on the fire engine in January. We're also looking forward to bringing back our volunteer reserve program. So if you know or have friends or have people, residents specifically, that reside in the Wood Colony or the Salida or the Del Rio area, we invite you to stay tuned to that, because we anticipate in January making a pretty good campaign to try and bring that volunteer program back. It's been in place, we've not lost it, but the numbers are lower than they've been for quite some time. So we'd like to get those numbers back up a little bit and to be able to serve the community with both platforms. That's full-time people as well as volunteer reserves. One of the things that I think our board looking forward has done and implemented several months ago is they brought and appointed or brought together 14 people. I think the number is about 14 people. It's representatives again from Wood Colony, from Salida, from the Del Rio communities, from commercial, ag people, and brought them together, and we refer to them as our Citizens Advisory Council or Committee right now. And they've met 3 or 4 times. They're looking at the district to understand the fire district a little bit better. What can we do by statute, by law, under government code? What can't we do? They're looking specifically at the district itself, and they're going to, or the plan is that as they review and understand it, then they're going to hopefully come back in January. That's the goal right now, to make some recommendations to the board. Again, you have a couple board members here tonight, and kudos to them for actually recognizing that as we get these 14 to 20 people together, it's a broader scope, a very diversified group of people coming together and looking specifically at the fire department and what our needs are today and what they are going to be in the future. As I look around, and I think there are at least 5 or 6 people here tonight, aside from the board members, that have been engaged and involved in that process. So you know who you are, and thank you very much and for helping out in all of this process, because it's been really good. We have one more meeting this month, and then we'll take a few weeks off for Christmas, and then in January we'll hit it hard again. Again, I think the board, as well as myself, looks forward to what this committee comes back with in the way of suggestions and recommendations for Salida Fire. So again, this thing is not stalled out. There's several parallel paths going in place right now. As for some statistics, I don't have detailed statistics for you tonight, but I will tell you that we run on the average approximately 100 to 120 calls a month is what we respond to. Normally, again, on the average, it'll vary a little bit, but about 70% of those are medical calls. The rest, and our 2 other high call volumes are alarms. You've already heard that from the Sheriff's Department, but alarms generate a number of calls for us. And then the other one is kind of unique, and we call them good intent calls. They're normally calls that will go out and will assist people with whomever, whatever. When all else fails and you don't know who to call, they send the fire department, and we're here for that. we are here for that. And so those call numbers are actually quite high in Salida. And it's not anything that we're ashamed of or we're not happy to do. It's we're here for that service for the community. So that's a little bit about what we do on our statistics. I want to close tonight and talk a little bit about just your safety for life, protection, property of property as well, and through these holiday times. Obviously, lights, Christmas trees are a huge concern. They continue to be a huge concern nationwide. Statistically, there are always significant events as a result of lights, extension cords, Christmas trees. Again, so I want to encourage all of you here tonight, those on camera as well, to take some extra precaution. The other thing that I want to mention is I told you probably 70-some% of what we do are medical calls. We are seeing, we have now come into in December, and it peaks out over the last 4 years in January, flu season. And you say, well, what's flu season have to do with the fire department? Well, again, we saw last year record numbers of people that were going to the hospitals, that were going to the emergency rooms, and you may have been one of them. And as they were going to the emergency rooms, really jamming those emergency rooms up, and it was holding up the ability for ambulances to drop off patients, which in turn, when ambulances can't drop off patients, become available to go and transport other patients. Guess who's at the houses caring for people? Fire engines. And it's tying fire engines and personnel up. And so what we've tried to do is go on a campaign here for the last couple of years and say, if you haven't got a flu shot, please go out and get one. It does help, trust me. Our public health officer for Stanislaus County is very vocal about this. And the other thing is just good hygiene. We always encourage good hygiene in December, January, and not just then, at all times actually, but particularly in December and January, because it does make a difference. It is, again, 70-some% of what we do are medical calls. So those are things that you can do to help us out. Again, I want to say a special thanks to John. John's been involved. There's a whole host. Actually, if you've been involved in this Citizens Advisory Committee, raise your hand time. You can see that there are a number of you, and we appreciate it. This is beyond the efforts of the board, and it's about Salida community coming together, call for help. And we made this call for help several months ago, and so each of you, and this is just a portion of it, but about 20 people dedicate their evenings several times already, and will continue to do it in the future. As a result of their recommendation to the board, again, we hope January, February, there may be some follow-up after that recommendation, and we'll be back here. And so potentially in the first quarter at some time, if there's more information, Catherine, and we have more to share, we love this opportunity to get out to our community. So thank you all very much. Any questions?
Well, first, Council first, any questions? Correct. No? When will the fire trucks get painted back to Salida Fire?
So if you look at the fire station downtown, all of those have already been converted over. We have a couple more to go, but pretty much everything's done. I think we have 3 more to go or something like that. So it's being done right now.
And then, do you guys do like an Operation Santa Claus?
So we, in the years past, have worked with the Civic Association. That's been a great effort. We want to get back involved in some of those efforts, certainly in the community. It's a great thing. We want to do that. So we're not doing it this year, but in the past, you know that the Salida Community Christmas has been housed and stationed out of the Salida Fire Station. We're absolutely in support of that. Thanks to the church for opening up their church. They offered this year to do it, but we're in support of that, absolutely.
One comment about your volunteer recruitment. Perhaps you'll be more successful now with the local high school, possibly recruiting from the high school.
We'd love to see it. And again, we're going to do it's my goal to do kind of a campaign in January. I was just a few weeks ago, I was in Del Rio, and kind of gave this same update to the Del Rio folks and asked them, because there's a need at that point. When there's a call or an incident there, these resources go to help those people as well. And so if we can, as neighboring communities can help each other, same with Wood Colony, we want to reach out to that rural community. And there's a real need, and the volunteers reserves augment our system in a huge way, so we want to get back to that.
Any other questions, Mark?
I'm a Wood Colony resident, and in reading the Modesto Bee, they're very vague on what the boundaries are. Could you
Certainly
talk about the boundaries?
So we serve 42 square miles, and just in general, I'll start on the east side. It's McHenry Avenue, from the river, McHenry, all the way to the city limits. Then we follow the city limits, which would be up around Bangs Avenue, right up that way, all the way around up here. Then it would go south along the freeway to Shoemake. So where MJC West Campus is, that's our southern border, and then Shoemake all the way to the end to the river. So out to Mapes Ranch area, and then so there you go. And then we follow the river back all the way back to Del Rio area. So those are kind of our boundaries. Again, 42 square miles. It's kind of unique when we look at our coverage area, because on the average we're about 4 miles wide, but we're 15 miles long in travel distance.
Where would I live on Shoemake and Hart, so I'm just this close to being outside the boundary, but where would my service come from?
So a great question. What we do in the fire services is we coordinate with neighboring agencies, and it's called automatic aid, or it's mutual aid is what we refer to it. Is that you'll hear that terminology a lot. Actually, we utilize that. The state utilizes that when the large fires are burning and all up and down California. And we utilize it on a regular routine basis on the borders of what we refer to the borders. So as I would start up Highway 99 and up this area, we'll mutual aid with Ripon Fire. When it's over on Shoemake and Hart, where you're located, that's going to be Woodland Avenue Fire. We'll mutual aid with them. We'll set tones and ask both agencies to respond with the closest resource to come. Coming in this area, we're going to, we anticipate doing auto aid again, once again, with the city of Modesto on the borders there. So that's just a great thing. There's not a community, to my knowledge, there's not a community in the nation that has a fire department that's large enough to handle every incident. There are some better and more well prepared than others, but there's not, particularly in this county either, and I can speak specifically there, knowing this county, is that every fire department at some point in time needs help. And oftentimes we see that on the borders. And so sharing resources is a great thing, partnering to help that. It's just, it's something that was built back in the, way back in the 1930s and 40s, when this community and the fire departments were actually formed in this town.
Where is the station located?
Chicarelli Road.
So Salida has three fire stations. Only one of them is staffed 24 hours. Okay, we have the one on Ladd Road, Ladd and Tully, and then we have the one right downtown here, and then our third fire station is out of Chicarelli and Toombs. Yes.
So where Mark was, would it be Salida and Woodland? Was there?
Yes.
What about the one on Hart Road?
There is one on Hart Road, South Hart Road, on south of Mays. That is a Woodland Avenue fire station, and then there's also a Woodland Avenue fire station on Woodland Avenue, which would be just east of the church.
I thought it was interesting, we heard that there's only 7 sheriffs on duty at any one time. How many, I mean, so maybe there's one for our area, and you have 2 full-time employees 24 hours a day. So you guys have more staffing than the sheriff's department.
That's a tough comparison. It really is a tough comparison. I will say from the perspective of our role is a little bit different. Our operations are a little bit different. So I don't know that I could actually compare with the sheriff's department as far as total staffing on there. Again. From our perspective, getting those volunteers reserves to augment is critical to us and to our success.
Oh, for sure. But they have probably a lot more support staff behind those officers that are in the field,
right,
compared to the way your resources are.
Yeah, and a lot of our operations are 2, 3, 4 people, even 5 and 6. And when you get a structure fire, 10, 12 people is needed to initially to get that going. So where an officer is dealing with some different call types, there's some different needs out there.
How
Well,
long does the-
you're Salida only, they're the entire county. If we were incorporated, we could contract with the sheriff's department and have multiple sheriffs here 24 hours a day. Like Houston has like 6.
Waterford.
Houston,
Yeah.
Waterford, Riverbank, Patterson,
Yeah.
they're in contract cities with the sheriff.
So there's 2 all the time, but you need 3 to go in. So how does that third person get there?
So what Brad's referring to is he's referring to a OSHA standard that's referred to as 2 in, 2 out. And what 2 in, 2 out says is that before 2 firefighters can go in and actually make a fire attack, an interior fire attack, there has to be 2 individuals outside and defined as a rescue team. Rescue team for that crew going in. Again, that's an OSHA standard that came into play a number of years ago out there. Now there are some exceptions to the rule. One is if 2 firefighters show up and it's deemed that there's somebody that's trapped inside and they need to make a rescue, that they can make a rescue without 2 outside. That is acceptable, although that window is very defined as to when they can do it and how they go about doing it. And there's documentation necessary once they do that. But we do have some protocol. It does not mean, though, that we can't take any action. Okay, there's a number of different firefighting tactics. There's offensive fire attack and there's defensive fire attack. And oftentimes the first engine company will set up maybe for an offensive attack, but will start a defensive attack until adequate personnel get in there. And again, I will say a lot of determination comes in how we attack a fire based upon where the fire occurs. If you're in a rural area out where there's a lengthy response time, that's one element. A big element in what we deal with is water supply. We would not want to put our people into a burning building with a limited water supply. We need to have a stable water supply to be able to do that. Well, I've just defined of our 42 square miles, quite a number of those are without hydrants. And so we have water tenders, and we have some of that support that's available to us. And that's not our fault, that's not your fault, anybody's fault, that's just, that's the community in which we serve. So rural firefighting, suburban firefighting, and then there's urban firefighting. Those are different elements that we deal with.
Can you take water from a pool?
We can, if we have access to it. And so we work very diligently, very hard with property owners, with Modesto Irrigation District. We're under contract with Modesto Irrigation District to draw water from their wells in the wintertime. In the summertime, we utilize the canals. We'll utilize anything that has water, and we train routinely with our personnel to be able to do that. Yeah. So if you've got a source out there, we'd love to talk to you. I'll give you my card.
Any other questions? Okay,
Okay. Thank you all.
thank you.